is a platform that will allow an exchange of dialogue and research between academics, between tax officials, between policymakers, and then also researchers in the private sector. So we are gathered here today to officially launch that network.
There must be some critical points around which the conference itself hinged. What are those?
We actually, the theme of the conference was contemporary tax challenges in Africa. We left it intentionally wide to welcome all researchers basically interested who conducted any research on taxation in the continent. So we had topics ranging from international taxation to subnational government taxation to tax compliance, tax avoidance, and the taxation of the extractive industry, as well as taxing society in general.
Let's talk about building fair and efficient tax systems. What do you mean by that?
Fair and efficient tax system, we must be able to ensure that we have a progressive tax system to make sure that the rich pay their fair share of the taxes, as well as, of course, the less rich. So everybody paying a fair share of the tax in proportion to their income.
If you mention the rich, we will go back and look at the fact that much of the tax systems that we are using were actually borrowed from these nations. Do you see us going in a different direction?
From these nations?
From the tax systems that we borrowed from these nations?
I think the taxation is a sovereignty matter. The tax policy and tax administration systems are set to respond to the specific needs of the country. But in general, the idea is to make sure that the base within the country is as broad as possible to ensure that each one in the country pay a fair representation of a fair share of the taxes.
And the discussions that were touched on at the conference, from where do you take them from here now on going forward?
We're planning to continue to have an annual conference organized every year. But in between, because there is a need to build a capacity on tax research in the continent, we're planning to put together a series of activities ranging from research capacity building and a matching of researchers, especially young researchers with senior researchers, whether in Africa and in the diaspora outside, but also from Europe and America, match all those researchers interested in researching in tax matters on the continent. So we put them together, we complement those with building capacity on tax research in the continent. We talk to academia, maybe to assist as well, and change the curriculum to really bring the tax agenda at a higher level on the continent. So this is a bit the kind of activities that will be implemented on the way forward while we solidify the institution of the African Tax Research Network.
Is there in any way that the network can help in dealing with the problem of illicit outflows out of Africa and poorer nations?
That would be exactly one topic. We already start talking about that. Illicit financial flow will definitely be one of the topics that are researched, I'm pretty sure. And other issues ranging from, of course, all those issues around base erosion and profit shifting, as we now going into the implementation of the international tax rules that have been decided at the international level, to try to bring them into our domestic legislation. So, and of course, also focusing on all those base erosion risks that are specific to our continent, ranging from tax incentives, the high net worth individual, the taxation of high net worth individual, the issues of contracts in the extractive industries. So all those topics will be certainly touched upon during future conferences and research.
Do you think that rich nations will be prepared to come to the party to help poorer nations get rid of illicit outflows?
I'm pretty sure it's like all those issues around base erosion and profit shifting. I'm sorry. A cooperative approach is essential because everybody suffers from it. So it's not only the developing countries, but also the developed countries, and both parties will gain tremendously by coming together to solve these issues.
And how can the network intervene to make sure that Africa's development becomes self-funding?
The idea is to create that network again, where a thought leadership, where fact-based policy recommendation based on our circumstances will come into play, where the solutions will be homegrown solutions that respond to our needs. So those researchers will come from all those areas, from policy, from tax administration, from the private sector, from the civil society as well. They will all come together to research and assist government in finding practical solutions to our problems. So that's where the network comes in, to create that platform to allow all those people to come together to find those practical solutions that can be implementable by our governments, by our policymakers.
And are you able to talk to us about the contribution that was made by experts that were invited from the international fraternity?
I mean, we had experts from approximately, from North America, we had experts from Europe, and we also have, I think, representation from Asia as well. And again, it was about research, but they all wrote about research in Africa because, again, that was the theme of the conference, and that's the aim of the platform. All those researchers that love tax, but that love to write on tax in the continent. So not only them, but everybody all talked about research on the continent, trying to find solutions, like I mentioned earlier, to our different challenges.
And were all African countries fairly represented?
We had 34 countries represented, and out of which 34 countries represented, and 24 came from Africa.